This is Plant-Based Briefing. Is one egg a day too much? By Michael Greger, MD at nutritionfacts.org. I'm your host, Marian Erickson. This is the Plant-Based Podcast where I curate and narrate, with permission, a variety of articles on the many reasons to live vegan. I share a lot of nutrition information about plant-based diets, information about environmental hazards of animal agriculture, the ethics, of course, the impacts on biodiversity loss, on wildfires, on the workers, on farmers. So many reasons to live a vegan lifestyle. Think of this as your daily dose of inspiration to stay the course with this healthy, compassionate, and sustainable lifestyle. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Is one egg a day too much? By Michael Greger, MD at nutritionfacts.org. Meta-analyses of studies involving more than 10 million participants confirm that greater egg consumption confers a higher risk of premature death from all causes. The NIH AARP study, sponsored by the National Institutes of Health and the American Association of Retired Persons, is the largest forward-looking, in-depth study on diet and health in history. Based on its 6 million person-years of observation, replacing just 3% of daily caloric intake of animal protein with plant protein was associated with a 10% decreased risk of premature death, just a 3% swap. Of all the animal protein sources, eggs were found to be the worst. Swapping in 3% of plant protein for egg protein was associated with twice the benefit, more than 20% lower mortality having scrambled tofu instead. In fact, each half egg a day was associated with a 7% increase in all-cause mortality. Just half an egg. That's consistent with 6 other U.S. cohort studies that collectively found that each additional half an egg consumed per day was significantly associated with a higher risk of getting cardiovascular disease and dying prematurely from all causes put together. And this higher risk of death persisted even after taking other lifestyle behaviors into account, including overall dietary quality. In other words, it doesn't appear to be just because people eating more eggs were also eating more bacon, for example. A meta-analysis of all such studies confirmed that greater egg consumption confers higher risks of death from all causes. Another meta-analysis, including other types of studies involving nearly 12 million participants, echoed that it may be prudent to avoid high egg consumption. But what does high mean? What's the safe amount? It's not quite clear. One meta-analysis suggested there's little evidence for elevated risks below half an egg a day, whereas another found that adding even 1 egg a week to your diet might increase your risk of dying from cancer. If the data on detriment are so clear, based on studies involving millions of people, why is there still controversy? Because the egg industry manufactures that controversy, just like the sugar industry does with sugar. Dr. Barnard's written about it. I've written about it. As noted by the director of the Stroke Prevention and Atherosclerosis Research Center, after conviction for false advertising, the industry has spent hundreds of millions of dollars to convince the public, physicians, and policymakers that dietary cholesterol and egg yolk are harmless. Yet a meta-analysis of more than 50 randomized controlled trials found that egg consumption significantly increases LDL cholesterol. Online, some bloggers parrot the egg industry's talking points that the 2015 U.S. Dietary Guidelines removed the dietary cholesterol limit to consume less than 300 milligrams of dietary cholesterol a day, whereas if anyone bothered to actually read the actual guidelines, they'd see that the guidelines actually strengthen the recommendation and tell Americans to eat as little dietary cholesterol as possible, as recommended by the Institute of Medicine, the most prestigious medical body in the United States. This advice was reiterated in the most recent dietary guidelines, saying, "The National Academies recommends that dietary cholesterol consumption be as low as possible, using the rationale that any intake above 0 increases LDL cholesterol concentration in the blood and therefore increases the risk of the #1 killer of men and women." You just listened to Is One Egg a Day Too Much? By Michael Greger, MD at nutritionfacts.org, and I'm your host, Marian Erickson. And if you'd like to check out some related episodes about health concerns with eggs, I'll link these in the show notes, but check out 714, How to Treat Body Odor with Diet, 544, Dietary Guidelines, Eat as Little Dietary Cholesterol as Possible, 435, Does Dietary Cholesterol in Eggs Raise Blood Cholesterol, 247, How Eggs Can Impact Body Odor, 246, Peeks Behind the Egg Industry Curtain, 159, Health Concerns with Eggs, and 111, the true cause of type 2 diabetes and what's wrong with eggs. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.